Hi folks, today we're going to have a look at a selection of single AA powered flashlights, and by AA powered I mean they will run off a wide variety of AA style batteries. So that will be your kind of 1.5 volt disposable types. Alternatively, you could use 1.2 volt rechargeable AA batteries, or better still, lithium if you want disposable, although a touch on the expensive side. Alternatively, we can be using the 14500 style battery, and the main advantage of the 14500 is they're 3.7 volt instead of either 1.2 or 1.5, and as a consequence each of these torches will perform much better with the superior voltage of that this type of battery offers. I'll be using the same type of battery and the same manufacturer and all of these to keep it as fair as possible. So the Nitecore 850, I'm not particularly recommending that one, just found that that's a pretty decent battery. I'll have a lux meter here so I can check the relative power of these and how they're running. Got my little stopwatch here so we can see how long they've been running for, and I'll be checking the temperatures of them. Now, I'm not going to go into too much about the individual pros and cons and features of each of these lights. Excuse me. What I am going to be focusing on, in no particular order, is the lumen output that the manufacturer states for each, and what type of runtime we get from the 14500 battery. I have included what the power outputs are, so just to reference that very quickly for the alkaline or nickel metal hydride. As you can see, on each occasion the output of the standard AA is significantly less than the 14500, and that's why we're going to concentrate on the 14500. But I have put the run times there just for reference if you want to pause it and have a quick look, but we're going to concentrate here. Now, the only manufacturer that has been particularly clear is Olight with the S1A, which is this little chap here. They were saying 600 lumens for 1 minute and then 60 minutes thereafter, and that has to do with the heat that these little torches have to absorb based on that power output. Thorfire have also said their model has got a 3-minute hard step down built in, but there's no indication as to whether that is heat related or not. So what I'm going to be doing is checking the relative output of these torches against each other. I'm not going to test the maximum run times because I'm going to try and run them at their full and kind of see how they perform versus the heat. So I should find that out in kind of perhaps 10 to 15 minutes. It'll depend on kind of how it pans out and how hot I find that they run. Now, the torches that we've got, if you didn't just notice it on that bit of paper that we were looking at there, we've got the Thorfire TG06S. They're running at about £10 each. We've got the Lumintop AA Tool 2. They run at about £15. We've got the Thrunite T10 2. They run about £20. The Olight, they're running about 30, and the Klarus is running at sort of about 40. So how do they stack up bang per buck wise? We shall see. So I'll pause this and get the first torch, and I'm going to start off in order of cost and work from there. Okay, so we've just started the timer now. We've got the Thorfire up first. So we can see the temperature is nice and low, as it would be. The timer's just started, so we're 15 seconds in. I don't know whether you can see the lux meter, but we're reading 39.35. So that's it's starting relative bounce the beam off the ceiling test, if you like. So we'll see how that runs and we'll pause. Okay folks, we're just approaching 3 minutes now on the Thorfire, checking its temperature. As you can see, it's running really cool, and the lux meter is still reading 39.04. Beg your pardon, that's quite handy. It's stepped down, as you can see from the timer, exactly when it said that it would. The lux meter is now reading 31. So it's stepped down at 3 minutes. but there was certainly no need to. You know, you can see there from the temperature, it's running virtually cold. What we can do though, we can just simply, oh sorry, beg your pardon, we can cycle back through again, pop it back onto turbo or full mode, and it starts again. I've tested this before on this particular one, so that the 3 minutes will just start all over again, and we can see now we're running at 39.63. If you can see the lux meter, the temperature, as we can see, absolutely no problem. Let's leave it running and see how that temperature pans out. Okay guys, we're still with the thorfire. We just had another step down. It's still running cold. No increase in the temperature at all. And as with the previous time, it's held its lux at just slightly under 40, and on the step down it's holding at 31.68. What I will do now is give it a few minutes on its stepped down power, and check the temperature then. I'm not expecting it to rise. If it didn't rise on its highest setting, it's hardly going to rise on its medium, is it? But we'll just leave it to run for a few minutes longer and see what happens, and then we'll switch over to a different model. Okay folks, so back with the thorfire. The temperature, as expected, is still running really cold. It's holding the lux output. Oh, it's just switched off. It's holding the lux output at just over and around the 31 mark, and we're 10 minutes in. So I think I will press pause now and swap over to a different model. Okay guys, next up is the Lumintop Tool. Start my timer there again at 20 minutes. We started at 49 lux on the ceiling bounce. Temperature wise, roughly the same as the thorfire started with. So I'll jot down what those initial openings were and then come back to it in a few minutes and see what's happened. Just back with the Lumintop now, chaps. I've been checking the temperature. If you have a quick look, that's starting to rise up there, and we're approaching the 3 minute mark, the same as the thorfire was. If you remember, the thorfire was running a lot cooler. This is getting quite warm. Yeah, it's not hot, warm. I wouldn't like to keep my fingers on it too long though. Dear me. Yeah, that is getting hot now. Yeah, we're 3 minutes in. And we're still holding at 47 lux. So it's dropped its power just a little touch. Let's leave it running and see what happens. Okay folks, we're back with the Lumintop now. The lux has just started to drop down to 45. We started at 48, but I mean I don't think anybody would notice that with your eye. Temperature wise, yeah, yeah, that's running warm come hot. You know, even at the tail cap, working our way up through the body. Yeah, that's a hot little devil. Okay, we'll turn this one off and switch over to a different model. Folks, the next one up is the Thrunite T10 version 2. 20 minute timer as with all the others, and it starts off at 40 lux. So we'll leave that ticking along and come back to it intermittently when I spot some temperature variations. Okay folks, we're back with the Thrunite. You can see from the timer we're closing 7 minutes in. The lux is holding at 39.75, so there's hardly any if any difference in the outcome. output, beg your pardon, not outcome. Temperature, getting warmer. Well, it still feels cool to the touch. I wouldn't describe that as particularly running hot. I wouldn't be worried, holding that. Not too bad at all. I don't think, and I have used this one previously, I don't think there's going to be much change, to be honest. I think it's just going to tick along now, holding this temperature. It's been pretty steady for all these minutes that I've been looking at it. It's just gone back up to 40 lux again. So I think that this one's just going to hold its current performance until the battery runs dry. I don't think there's much point in leaving this running much longer. So I'll switch over to something different. Okay, folks. Next up is the Olight. Let's start our timer. Our opening reading is 44.4 is what we started off. Let me just quickly jot that down. You can see that, yeah, 44. Yeah, we're holding at 44. So I'll leave the timer running now and see what happens. So I've just restarted this pretty quickly, actually, folks. We started off at 44, didn't we? And what I've kind of noticed fairly quickly, it didn't hold that particular power, and it's dropping. Don't know whether you can read the lux meter. 39.70, 39.4, 39.3. That's not heat related. That's running cool. I haven't noticed a particular step down yet. Yeah, it's really cool, but it just can't hold its power. It's I haven't noticed the 1 minute step down, other than when I first turned the camera on and we started off at sort of 44 lux. It's just slowly within the space now of just under 2 minutes dropped down to 36, which is within a couple of minutes lower than anything else that we've tested. 36.4340. I'll just leave it running so you can see 30. Oh, it's jumped back up again to 40. So it seems to have steadied out now, holding at 36. Yeah, so it steadied out at 36.40, somewhere around that mark. I wasn't expecting that. So, quite a high output to start off with. I didn't notice a 1 minute step down, as I mentioned, and we're holding around the 36.5-ish. I'll pause and keep my eye on this and see what happens, and we'll just have a look at the heat again. Yeah, it's not heat related. Yeah, I'll leave it going and pause, and I'll keep my eye on it. If anything changes, we'll come back. Okay guys, we're jumping back to the Olight now. You can see from the timer how long I've given it. Yeah, it's not running hot. Yeah, that's cool running. And the lux is leveled out at 35. So there was no hard step down with this. It kind of held that, as you saw, the 45 lux initially, and then it lost that very rapidly within the first minute or so, as indeed Olight state that it will. That 1 minute plus 60. So it's leveled out now at around the 35 lux. Now, one thing I will just show you about this Olight. Let me just turn it off. It's got a slightly different lens. It's what they call a total internal reflection lens, a TIR lens. So don't look at the Olight at 35 lux and compare the others to say 50, because it's not a fair comparison. The lux reading will be different from a torch with that type of lens, where I'm going for the ceiling bounce. Okay, folks, next up we have the Klarus. Let me start my timer. Again, our starting point there is 42.4 on the lux. Let me just jot that down, my memory, as I've said. Okay, 41.8. Seems to be doing what the Olight initially did, which is come on initially quite bright, and now it's very, very slowly dropping. 41.4, 41.3. 41.2, 41.1. I'll press pause and not make you enjoy this, but I'll keep my eye on this and see whether it continues this pattern. So I'll pause at this point. Okay, guys, just jump back to the Klarus there. I was just making some notes as to what I was seeing. It, as you can see on the lux meter now, well, hopefully you can see it's running at 34.6, 4 minutes in, and the temperature, yeah, that's getting hot. Yeah, that's well, no, not hot. That's not fair. Let's get it warm. But its powers, or beg pardon, its output has dropped now relative to once it started. 34. And what I noticed with it, I was just making some notes there as I was talking. We started off at 42, and it seemed to rapidly drop that within the first 40 seconds or so, but not a great deal. And then it did seem to steady out around the 40 mark, and I was expecting it to kind of hold that and probably be comparable with the others that I've looked at. But it didn't. It just as I was making those notes and observations, it rapidly dropped at around the 3 minute mark to the point that we can see now at 34, and it does seem to be holding that. Yeah, it is 34.596059. Yeah, I'll pause it and leave it running a little bit longer and see how it pans out. Okay, guys, we're back with the Klarus. Let's have a quick look at the temperature. Yeah, nothing could be described as running warm or hot there. That's yeah, that's still okay to the touch, and it has leveled out as I suspected it would around the 34.5 mark. So where are we in summary then? Because I've been scribbling down as we've gone through all of this, and what I've noted down so far. Let me turn that one off and get our torches. Just bear with me a second. Right, so jumping back to the models that we started with. Let me just adjust that. There we go. So the TG06, if we recall, that one started around 40 on the lux meter. It held its power well. It had that hard step down at 3 minutes, which was very noticeable, but to be honest, not needed. Don't know why they built that in. I think they've been a little bit overly cautious there. It wasn't running hot at all, and otherwise, with perhaps the irritants of restarting it, it was running very, very well. Let me move that out of the background because I think it's affecting the focus of the camera. Yeah, so yeah, really, really pleased with that one. The Lumintop, this one was noticeable in that it had it's got the highest claim lumen output of all of them, and that seemed to be borne out by the initial lux reading that we had. There was no step down whatsoever, and it held its power throughout, but it was also the hottest running. I'm not sure how that will bear on the longevity of this particular light. Heat to me is normally not a very good thing, but it wasn't fantastically hot. But yeah, no step down. The Thrunite, with one of the lowest claimed outputs, that ran a little bit warm, but it was steady. There was no step down, and it held its power throughout. The Olight was one of the highest when we first received a lux reading on it, so I suppose you get the initial wow factor when you turn that on, but it very rapidly dropped power within the first 1 minute, as Olight said that it would, and it levelled out at around the 35 lux and then held that running very, very cool thereafter. The Klarus, the most expensive one, also lost its power very quickly and initially, and then it held it for another couple of minutes and then dropped it again even more. This was probably a little bit disappointing, to be honest. This is the most expensive one, and the Olight being the second most expensive, and I think those two for me had the most unusual power output profile, in comparison with the others. I think when you turn those two on initially, yes, you're going to see that brightness, but with it stepping down reasonably quickly, perhaps you wouldn't notice it, whereas these chappies here were all kind of distinct in their own way. I'm not quite sure what to make of that, particularly when you consider the costs involved, varying from £10 through to the highest here at 40. We'll take them out in a moment, and we'll have a look to see how they perform after dark and put them up against each other then. And I'm not sure what conclusions we come to. If I can come to any, I'll probably do a little in summary at the end, but otherwise we'll come back to them after dark. Folks, so we're out with our 5 AA flashlights, and we'll start in order of cost with the thorfire. Let me just juggle these other ones around in my hand, sorry, bear with me. So as we can see, quite an impressive amount of light and quite a focused beam, but we're certainly not short of light. So let me have a route through my pocket now and find our next one up, which is going to be the Lumintop AA tool. I think that's immediately noticeable there. That's it. In fact, let's get the two alongside each other. That's the thorfire and the Lumintop. So there's quite a significant difference there, isn't there, between the two. That said, though, the Lumintop is advertised as having a higher power, and that's certainly evident. So we'll put the thorfire away, and we'll now fish out. Bear with me, I'm fumbling in the dark here. Okay, let's try the Thrunite. Yep, very, very decent amount of light, certainly up close, that's just washing out. And against the Lumintop, yeah. In fact, let's get the thorfire back out again and compare it, because I'm expecting these two to be I'm expecting these, sorry I just paused there, I could hear something rushing through the woods there, just over in that direction. Yeah, can't see a great deal of difference between the Thrunite on the right hand side and the thorfire. Come down the path just a little touch. I think there's a great deal of difference, is there, between those two. Let me switch those two off and jump back to the Lumintop tool. Yeah, that's considerably brighter. We'll try the Klarus. The Klarus is advertised as being the highest. Oh no! Just to make sure I've actually got it. Yes, it is on high mode. Lumintop, Klarus. Klarus, Lumintop. Okay, let me just swap torches again and go to, I think we'd established that the thorfire and the Thrunite were roughly around the same, didn't we? So let's compare the okay, so we've got the thorfire here, Klarus, thorfire, thorfire, Klarus. The Klarus is performing the weakest so far, given that that's supposedly got the highest output. In fact, significantly lower than the thorfire. Oh, okay. Let's go back to our Lumintop. That's the clear winner so far. And let's have a look at the Olight. Okay, let's get the Olight up and running on its highest mode. Okay, there we have the Olight. Don't know what my dog's barking at. Situation normal again. Probably something creeping up behind me in these woods. This is the one of the strange features of this particular light, or advantageous features, is the just let me pause the video and check behind me. Hang on. Yeah, sorry about that, nothing there. As I think about wandering around these woods on your own at night. Yeah. Now, what's absolutely noticeable here about the Olight is the TIR lens. It produces a very, very balanced, round spot, and in that respect it's probably a little bit unfair to compare them to the others. Got those eyes in the distance again, down there watching me, whatever that is. Bear me a quick second. A fox just jumped to one of the other torches there. Yeah, so back to the Olight. I mean, that is a massive spot. I mean, let's just put it alongside the Lumintop. So it's not as bright in the centre. That's a much more balanced, roundish type beam, and that's what you get with the TIR lens. In comparison. I do really like that beam profile, actually. So the worst performing, unfortunately, is the Klarus, which is the most expensive. But other than that, I think the Olight with this particular beam profile stands itself apart as a for due consideration. The Lumintop, simply because of its raw power, it does run a touch hot, but the output is phenomenal, as you've seen. The Thrunite, if you want a magnetic tail clip, that might be one to go for, with a side click on it. That is the second cheapest at £15. So, you know, £15 for the Lumintop versus £40 for the Klarus. A little bit of a no-brainer there, I'm afraid. And for out-and-out cost saving, and performed nearly as well as all the rest, was the thorfire at £10. So sometimes it isn't. You get what you pay for. Sorry, Klarus. 700 lumens? Nope. Okay, chaps. Thanks very much. We'll catch you on the next review. Hi folks, we're back home, and I thought I'd give a very quick summary on what my thoughts are of these 5 lights. Starting off with the thorfire TG06. As you can see from the outside shots, it performed very well, and as you can see from the heat test that I ran earlier on, it runs very cool. Basic operation with the tail clicky, but for £10 you just can't go wrong. That's just absolutely fantastic light at that price point. And the 3-minute hard step down, it's not heat related. I suppose they put that there as a precaution. That didn't bother me either, because I just simply pressed the tail cap and back up again. For an extra £5, we go to what seemed to be the most impressive, at least to my eyes, in terms of output, the Lumintop AA tool. Again, very similar to the thorfire in that it's got a tail clicky, but it can also be operated by twisting the nose there with an up and down type of thing. It comes with a nice accessory as well in the box, and it's got a little plastic thing that goes on the end there to create a sort of a room light, if you wish. So in comparison with the thorfire, yes, it seems to have better output, and was certainly the case to me, but it runs hotter, so you know, take your pick on those two. Moving up to £20, we've got the Thrunite T10. Again, we could see that run at a very stable power. It was a little bit warm, but nothing excessive. It's different than the others, and it's got a magnetic base. You may like that, you may not, with the side switch. So again, I can't fault this light, and in fact, you know, for those 3 there, sort of 10, 15, £20, I don't think you could really go wrong with either of those, and I wouldn't like to choose. You know, if you're just looking at the apparent output, then yes, you go for the Lumintop, but as I said, that runs hot. That bothers some people, not others. These 2 run nice and cool. The Olight, magnetic tail cap, side switch, and that fantastic TIR lens, which, as you could see, it wasn't throwing the distance, but then again, as soon as you see this type of lens, it's not designed to throw the distance. It's designed to put that lovely, intensely bright and wide beam for close-up work. So if that's the type of beam profile that you want, then I'd definitely look at the Olight. And the most expensive, yeah, well, it just didn't perform as well as any of them, I'm afraid. And this is the highest price one at £40. So unless you particularly want a titanium finish, I think this one's a bit of a dud. They do a standard version, and I'm not sure whether it makes it better or worse, but that's £25. You know, which would put it very close to the price of the Olight. And no, I'm afraid not. I just wouldn't do it. So I'd probably push that one aside, and I will be choosing between any of those 4, all for different reasons, and they're all fantastic lights, and they'll serve you well. Thanks, folks.